Welcome to the About Healing podcast, a place of love and understanding for all. A reminder that we are in this life together and never alone in our struggles. I'm your co-host, Sheree Buckman, medium and spiritual healer.
And I'm your other co-host, Katie Sass, intuitive energy healer. For more information on us, check out our personal websites listed in our About Healing podcast description.
Let's get our healing on.
Yeah.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the About Healing podcast. This is going to be a little bit different per episode this time because I don't have my other half here to talk with us today. Katie's not here. Katie needed to go work on some other things. So we've decided to start rolling and playing with the episodes a little bit just to kind of see what goes on. Because you know what? Life happens. And one of us may not be available, but we want to keep these going for you guys. So you guys are stuck with me, but it's not just me today. I've got Copper with me. Hi, Copper.
Hi, Miss Sheree. How are you?
I'm doing amazing today, honestly.
Good,
Woo.
good.
What about you?
I'm doing great too. Not necessarily when this airs, but we are staring summer down. Feeling really good about that.
Wow. I have to prepare everybody for this episode because getting in and preparing and really feeling into what I wanted to talk about by myself, it actually came to me that I wanted to talk about something that's actually really big. It was a topic that I feel that I have questioned my entire life. I remember for a very long time. But I also feel that this is going to be appropriate for the listeners and this podcast because I asked for answers to this or at least a little bit of understanding. And I feel that this could be helpful all around. And that topic is, why are we here?
I mean, are you sure that's a pretty limiting topic? I don't know. Can we talk about that for 30 minutes? That's not large at all.
Not at all. And you know what? And you know me, my notes are so big on this that I had to remind myself that we can talk about some of these basic pieces and concepts to expand on later. Okay, so I would like to give the reminder, as always, especially when we get into these deeper topics, that no matter what I share, I want you to feel the information. Is this information right for you? Does it not make any sense to you, or do you feel something completely different? That is okay. I want you to trust yourself and trust your instincts on this. This information is here for those who have been questioning it, who may just need a little bit of extra information to start feeling things out for themselves. What I am sharing is what I know right now, what I've learned along my journey, what I received from spirit. A lot of this I get from sessions. So when I'm connected with a client, I receive a lot of information, and spirit and guides and other light beings, they bring forward a lot of this information, and it starts coming up a lot and a lot and a lot. And I'm sharing these pieces in almost every session. So I feel that it's becoming this important piece that needs to be shared. That's where we're going. So Copper, do you ever wonder about what we're here for? What is the purpose of this life?
Oh, I would say yes. I mean, especially, I'm always very aware that in the simplest terms, this particular life is only one time around. There's not a lot of second chances. So making sure that we're reaching our full potential, that we're doing the right thing. I'm always aware of that concept that like I'm only going to be 40 once. I'm only going to be 45 once. I'm only going to raise my children this one time. What is my goal? What is my purpose of me being here? That does come up quite often because I feel like I'm open to the concept that we have multiple opportunities to live lifetimes. Trying to make the most of this lifetime is important to me.
I love what you just said. And to a lot of people, I feel that there's a lot of groups that definitely feel what you feel and feeling that, like, you know what, I've got to live this life. This is this one opportunity. And that you're open to the concept of past lives and multiple lives, of reincarnation. Honestly, it's whatever word you want to put onto that. But I too have asked this question, and I want to tell this little story because this is a memory I have. And I told you, if you heard my episode, that's all about me. I have memories that go way back and can get really detailed on these little one-time experiences, and this is one of them. So I remember I was young. I'm trying to place the age. I remember we were driving. This was a long road trip. Honestly, this actually might put me adolescent ages. So maybe sixth, the junior high, I feel. This is maybe that age group. So I guess I'm not going that far back. I was young. We're on this road trip. I remember laying in the back seat because, back then we didn't have to wear the seatbelt and I could lay in the back seat. No big deal. And it was nighttime and we were driving. And so one of the only things, this is before the electronics to keep us busy, and it was dark, so you couldn't read your books or color or do your thing. So I am laying there and I'm just looking out the window. And I remember looking out this window and looking into the sky, and it's stars everywhere. Because we're driving, I know we're driving through the desert, so there's not a lot of city lights, and you can just see like the infinite stars everywhere. And of course, looking at stars, it usually brings in those questions of, where are we from? Why are we here? Like, it's the big expanding questions of the universe. And that's what started happening. I remember laying there and looking, and this was the most interesting experience, especially now looking back and how I can connect it all with what I know. As I laid there, and what started happening is I remember this layering effect of understanding and knowledge. It was like a step-by-step question, and I kept receiving these answers. Is there more than just this life? And I just completely felt it and was overwhelmed by this. Yes, there's more. And then it was like the next step, a next question is there more out there? And it was like this big, overwhelming yes. And I just kind of felt myself almost like with every question and every answer, almost kind of like lifting out of my body and just kind of going higher, as if I'm trying to reach and trying to get to the other side of that darkness to try to peek through. I mean, it was so interesting. Like, I can remember this piece by piece, and it's truly do remember feeling as if I am floating and going up, like I'm leaving my body. It was just one of these experiences. And I remember getting so close and asking all these very like specific questions about what was out there and why we were here. And I can't remember every single question, but I do remember those general feelings and pieces. And then I remember getting so up there. Like, it's interesting. I almost felt like I was on the brink of this full understanding. So weird to talk about, like, especially you're talking about the universe and this, like, the totality of it. Like, I really felt like, oh my gosh, I'm getting it and I'm understanding and I'm understanding. And then all of a sudden, it's as if someone stood there, as if like I can see, like I'm climbing this mountain, this cliff, and I get my hand onto the top to pull myself up. And it's as if someone stands there and goes, nope, you're not supposed to come up here. I mean, it's not like in this forceful, awful way, but in this loving, like, you're not supposed to be back here right now. You need to go back. And then all of a sudden it was like all of a sudden I like landed back in my body. And then it was this full confusion and dizziness and headache that started. It was the most interesting experience I had in this big question. And I remember this specifically. And I got so overwhelmed. And then I remember getting into this feeling of, wait, what was I thinking about? It started getting fuzzy, like a dream, like when you have a dream, but I was fully awake. Like, I was fully awake. This was not a dream. That's what that feeling was. Like when you wake up and you know you just had this big dream and you're trying to catch it before it runs away. And then it just went, and you're like, well, I can't remember anything now. That's what happened because I wasn't supposed to. I really wanted to share this story because I have always asked this question and I've always wanted to know. And I found that after my awakening and going through this process and understanding who I am and understanding and using and helping other people through these abilities, that which still I don't like using the word abilities. uh, I still don't have a good word for it yet, but one day we'll find that. But through people I've met, through the dozens and dozens and dozens of books that I read on everything, and with the sessions and connecting with my guides and through meditation. And I'm just putting this out there because this information I received is from a collective of everything. And this is what I truly feel. And I want you to go through this too. So, really, to start this out and to share with you about the reason why we're here on earth, why are we having this experience? What is this place all about? Here's the biggest kicker, and this is the one thing I want to make sure that I share is that first and foremost, we are souls here having a human experience. It is not in reverse. We are not humans who have souls, it is backwards because we are first and foremost the soul, the spirit, the light, the essence, the energy. That is our truest form. And that's where we come from. Are you with me, Copper?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm just making
Yes.
sure I'm not going too big all at once. So,
No. Mm-mm.
but this is such a good starting place, and we need to talk about this. So, first, to really kind of take that in, I remember the first time I heard that. I mean, I understood it kind of, but I felt it. I'm like, yes, that's it. Like, this was a big piece for me. And it started with that for a while. And then again, it's just this big unfolding of so much more and everything else in it. So, to really get in here and dive deep about why we're here, I've heard a lot of, I'm sure everybody's heard of people, and whether you're one of them or not, I don't know. People describe Earth and this life as this must be hell. It's tough, it's hard.
Yeah, I could see where people might believe that this can't be the good place, you know? So,
I love that show, by the way.
me too. I know. I reference it way too much.
Oh, the good place, right? And so there's so many things I want to break apart in this because this is not, and I don't, again, full other big discussion, I don't believe in hell and not in that way,
Hmm.
not a place. And we're not. We are here, these souls, okay, as souls. We are here for the purpose to learn, to grow, to evolve, and to expand. And I'm talking on that energetic level and those vibrations and everything else. And usually, when I start talking about this concept to those who really haven't really put together the concept of us being souls and wait a minute, what are you talking about? This learning what? What are we expanding? What is that purpose? I like to compare it to this. You have to think about these incredible beings that have lived on this earth. And this is going back again, if you've heard the Q&A, the big Q&A episodes where we talk about the definitions of ascended masters and angels and guides and all of these things. So not all beings that we connect with on the other side have lived human lives. Actually, there are some that have, and I'm referencing to like these ascended masters. So the ascended masters, again, would be like Jesus Christ, Gandhi, Mother Teresa. These are these beautiful, beautiful beings that came to live this life to teach others because they're at such a higher place and they lived human lives. So they lived the ego and they were not perfect beings here. They started out like a lot of us making choices, going through all of these, and then we learn and we grow in the lifetime. And that's what they're doing. And then they started sharing and teaching. I don't want to get too far ahead now, but I'm just trying to bring an example just to fathom and connect to what a higher being would look like, even in our human form. These are ones that are pure love, that bring in this beautiful balance. I really want to say that balance, and I want to get into this in a minute too, but it's the balance of where we can give love, but the balance of it isn't just give, 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 give till you have nothing left. There's a balance in it where it's giving and receiving. There's that. That's the balance. And that is where the higher plane you're going. So, as a soul, we come here to Earth, and Earth in this world, in this human life, or however you want to describe it, I'm just going to say, I like to describe, we come here to Earth, and this is our school. This is like our classroom. I feel like minds are being blown right now. I don't know. Are you with me, Copper?
I am. I am.
Like, wait, what? Just stick with me, hear me out for the rest of this, and then everybody can kind of form their opinion, and that's okay. We chose Earth as our school. In our soul form, we are these beautiful beings of light. We do not have egos. When we leave our physical form, we lose that human part of us, which is the ego. This is the one that holds all those judgments and the hate and the separation and everything else, because we are just pure light energy of understanding. We don't even talk. We don't like use our mouths or ears or anything like that when we are in our soul form. We are using it telepathically. Like we just know, because again, it's energy. We know, we feel, we share, we love, we support, because we are all connected as one. There is no separation. There's no gender. There's no race. There's nothing that is a category that separates us when we are in our soul form. Whew. I fear fireworks again and explosions. Pew, 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 pew. I know some might be feeling this or already aware of this, and great. I love that. And you know what? Let's keep sharing this information, because that's what this is about. And I'm really trying to connect with those who've never thought about this or who may have been feeling certain feelings, and this is bringing that validation in there for you. Again, going back to deciding to come here to Earth as a school. When we're in our soul form, we don't have that dense. Everything's perfect. We're not afraid of, there are no secrets, because it's not possible, and no one holds those judgments. Everybody knows everything, because that is our perfection, is we're just growing and learning. So when we're in soul form, we are again having these wonderful experiences of light, of love, of all of that. And we're also still learning. Have you ever heard of the Akashic Records? It's kind of like the library for souls. It has every memory and every event, anything that's ever happened in the entire universe is in this place. That's every thought by any person is in there. It's this unlimited, vast place of knowledge. And I say that because I always see myself going there a lot. I feel like when I dream, I go there and I'm studying with my guides, and we're talking and we're learning, and I'm still growing. Like, what can I take in? What do I personally need to work on? How can I help other people? And this is kind of what we're doing. But when we're in just our soul form and we're not actually having that human experience, we're learning on how to keep evolving and growing in light. We want to get closer to the light. We want to get closer to the light. And I guess that's the goal.
Okay.
Again, I'll explain more on that in a minute. I just don't want to get too far ahead in this. We don't have those emotions there. So to fully learn and understand the things that we are, let's say, like reading in a book, I'm bringing this to a concept of learning in a school. You can sit here and try to learn chemistry out of a book, but all you're looking at is symbols and a general understanding of what it looks like on paper, but you're never going to understand it unless you do the experiment, unless you are experiencing it and you see it and you feel it and you smell it, and using these senses that we do not have in the soul form. And that's why we have chosen Earth to experience it. And by the way, to choose Earth as like your classroom or to spend a lifetime here, this is a hard place. So I want everybody to know and understand you are courageous for even stepping foot into this life or accepting life, because it is dense, and we get a shock to our system the moment we are born.
And constantly.
Right, exactly. But I just mean that's where it starts. It
Yeah.
starts the moment we are born. When we are out and take that breath is where it starts. It's just whoosh, because that's when we start feeling that density of earth. We're in that lightness, the wonderful place, and that's what spirit always comes through, and they always share that with their loved ones, like, I'm fine. The moment they left their body, it's like, but I could finally breathe again, like taking that fresh breath, and they can look back at everything and saying, wow, I held on to a lot of stuff. Like, whoo, none of that made sense. Or they feel wonderful again if they were sick or whatever it was. We just completely lose the density. So when we're here, we're getting into the density. This is like low vibrating because we're supposed to feel, we're supposed to carry the weight. And I want to rephrase that. I don't mean in carrying and holding emotions, because that is what I'm trying to teach to heal, is you got to let go of that stuff. But I just mean to really feel everything. And that's the purpose, is that we're here to learn how to navigate and make choices, and to feel the emotions. And you know what's interesting, that is there actually is no such thing as like good or bad. You know, when we talk about emotions or when we talk about experiences, people will describe, I have been through so many bad things. So many bad things keep happening to me. And there are really tough things that people can go through. but it is us in our human form that put the definition of good and bad. Because in soul form, we don't have those words. Like, it's not a definition. It's just an experience to help you in growing. And maybe it's not just you. I'm saying this because it's a change of perspective. And sometimes, because this comes up a lot, it's that change in perspective that maybe you're going through some of these really difficult situations, not only for your growth, but also for the growth of those around you and that are in that situation also. When we do enter into our human form or enter in a lifetime, we are wiped clean. That's why we have this hard time and that question keeps coming up. Why are we here? Who are we? But yet we feel like there's so much more. We know, like, wait, is this it? This can't be it. That's when we start bringing in all these questions and these feelings and this confusion because we are not to remember. We're supposed to be wiped clean because otherwise it's like cheating. We're in class. Like, that's cheating otherwise. And you wouldn't learn if you remember everything because we're here with our free will to make choices and then to learn from our choices. Are we bringing those internal memories of past lives and from the lessons that we wanted to learn? And are we utilizing them in a way that's helping us grow? Again, when we go to those right or wrong or good or bad, none of that is true. We're just making choices and learning. Some ways feel good and some are scary, or some cause some severe backlash and some other events happening. We got to stop judging that and that we've made bad choices or people are making bad choices. Separate that. We need to separate that and understand that these are lessons that people are just learning. And some people need to learn them on their own too. That got big because I feel like I have to be careful there too. Like, doesn't mean like let everybody fall on their face. I mean, there are things that we can do to help and we can inspire. Like what we're doing, we talk about our own stories and we are inspiring from our growth. This to me is the biggest way to share and help our other mankind through things. But again, I feel like I'm still getting a little ahead here and I want to.
Can I just ask, when we talk about this, what is your response to when people's actions cause harm to other people then? I mean, we talk about how everything is a lesson and we're supposed to learn. To be honest, some people are bad. I mean, and that might be their
Right.
behavior. Their behavior is bad. Their actions are bad. Their thoughts are bad. Like, what is your thought process on that? Knowing what you know.
I love your question. And actually, I was going to definitely get to this too, but no, it's a good place. I will interject it right here. So, from what I know and understand, at least at this point, too, remember, we're coming into this lifetime to make choices. The truth is that the way that I see it too, again, there's multi layers to the answer to this question. Okay.
Okay.
One of them I want to describe as I also believe that the age of the soul makes a big difference. The age of the soul. I feel is that the younger the soul, some of the bigger mistakes you might be making because you got to think about it. Like we go through these stages, think about the adolescent stages of our children, right?
Right.
Teenage years, everybody, the first thought when we say, man, I'm raising a teenager, they're like, oh man, I'm sorry. Are you okay? Like we're in this because to me, this kind of like the best way to describe as the soul grows, we go through these stages of just like this rebellion and we're trying to figure things out. No one's going to tell me this or that. And when we come into this form and we forget again where we are and who we are and what we're here to do, we are feeding that ego and soul need and those urges where we're not filtering and letting go and thinking about these choices. So some people are getting really stuck into a lot of the emotions they've grown up with. The things, again, I'm ex-social worker. I've worked with children who have been through some really severe things. And there is this saying, and I don't agree with it, but I'm going to say this too, that sometimes the victim becomes a perpetrator.
I agree with you.
We've heard this, right?
Yes, and I am not a fan of that statement too. I think it's baloney.
It is, actually. So here's the thing, because you always have a choice.
Yes.
You always have a choice. Bad things can happen to you, but it is still up to you how you choose to deal with it. And those who maybe haven't, again, I got to be careful with this too, because there's so many different situations where people feel stuck, because some people just don't even know where to look to get help. Some people maybe have asked for help and the right people aren't helping them, or they're falling through the cracks of the system. I have seen that stuff happen too. But really and internally, you still always have a choice.
Right.
Either let it break you or create something out of it. And that's where the biggest inspiration, you've heard those stories that have gone, where people have gone through some of these intense, traumatic situations and still come out. But it's about processing and letting some things go and knowing and understanding that they don't make you. What I mean by that, the circumstances, the situations you're in don't make you. You are still in control and you can change that and mold it into something else. We have some people that get stuck in those really deep emotions that don't process. They just sit there and they eat in it. And those are people usually in that victim mode, and they start blaming everyone else for their problems. And then we're starting to make really bad choices, or we're trying to take control, or they're trying to take control of their lives by exerting power and exerting control and making these really bad decisions and choices. Here's the thing though, they're also still learning. And I can sit here and look at those. I mean, prison, of course, is going to be a great place to really look at these souls that have gone through things, that are learning and processing. And to sit here and say and think that, but I would never, ever do anything like that. Sorry. There's a big piece that we have to really consider, and it is more of a probability than a possibility that you've made these really bad choices yourself at some point in a lifetime before, because we grow and we learn. And if you obviously are this great person making really good choices, I really believe that you've evolved and you've lived through a lot and you've learned and you've grown. So we've been there. And then there's people who also make choices that just, they're rejecting the light. And this is a really big, heavy conversation in itself. But again, this to me is like those phases. It's like those adolescent phases. Like, I don't believe mom, I'm leaving home, I'm running away, and I'm going to do things my way. And it's just rebel, rebel, rebel. And that's kind of the best way that it's coming to me on how to describe at least a general feel into why people make these horrid choices that affect others in really bad ways. It's a very loaded question too, because there's no one answer to it, but this is kind of like the best I can bring into a general understanding. Thank you for asking that, Copper.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big one, especially when we're surrounded by people who make bad choices, or we were brought up in a situation where we couldn't control and a lot of bad things happened to us. I just need everybody to hear who has been through that, or who is maybe still struggling in some traumas that you have been through. Just know you are amazing and brave and courageous to choose to live the life that you are living. And also know that you are a powerful, powerful being who can still grow and can change the circumstances that you led, because the future has not happened yet. You are creating in the moment. So just know that it can change. It can. It can. There's always hope. Here's some more, these other deeper subcategories under the big question of why we're here that I have to explain. So these lessons and the reason that we come here and why we're choosing to be here and to grow and evolve is we sit down before we enter a lifetime, and believe it or not, we sit down and we actually are doing these pre-planning sessions. We sit down with other soul beings, with our guides, with some really heightened beings. That's how I've seen them when I'm connected in my sessions. You are talking to other souls that you connect with in this life, who your parents are, your siblings, your children, your spouse, or best friends, or different big important people, even people that just pass by in your life that you feel these big, massive connections with. Believe it or not, we've sat down and we've talked about these planning pieces of who will walk into our life at certain times. And I have to be clear here. We do not plan out in concrete form of our life, because I've had people be like, well, what's the purpose of living if it's all planned out for us? It's not like that. We plan in possibilities and probabilities. We could not even fathom the type of information and how we do things on the other side. What I'm sharing with you, I am barely scratching the surface. This is just what the limiting of our senses and human mind can understand. There's so much more and it's so much bigger than that. But these pre-planning sessions, we sit down and then we talk with our guides, and we already know all of our past lives and where we are as a soul without judgment, without any of that. We take full responsibility for everything. It just is. We sit there and we're like, well, these are these big lessons I know I still need to work on. I've struggled with, and I'm not there yet. And there's a lot of like subcategories that we'll work on, which are this kind of the smaller things. And to give an example, because I remember asking when I heard this before about the concept of these life lessons and what we're learning and growing. Well, like what? What would be a life lesson? What are we trying to grow from? There's so many, but just a couple to kind of get you in that right wavelength is forgiveness, self-love, which is a huge one. Self-love, I see that a lot. It is learning to love people unconditionally. That's a big one too, without judgment. Being there to support others, for claiming our personal power back, knowing we're not victims and that we can create and we can do. There's also balance. This is a big one for my lifetime too, is creating balance. This is a big one for me. I'm not ashamed. It just is. Okay. Or maybe it's about standing up for others or standing up for yourself. I mean, these are some of just small examples of what these lessons look like.
I'm sure empathy is in there because that's pretty important stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a subcategory, like that would be under like loving and
Yeah.
understanding and things like that, especially unconditional love. Now, getting back to the balance, which also brings in these karmic lessons that we're going through. It's important for people to understand that karma is not a bad thing. Because I've heard the phrases like, "Ooh, karma's going to get you." Don't worry, karma will get them. Karma is not out to get you. That's not what karma is. Karma is an energy of balance, is all it is. And people are like, well, an eye for an eye. It's not, again, a scary bad thing. This is something that we are always in agreement with, because that's just the point. We want to learn, we want to grow. And so we need to learn and understand the balance of things. And so we also have some big karmic lessons we're bringing in that we've been going through lifetimes. And so this is where that example where, Copper, you asked me about some of those people who make really harsh, bad choices that hurt other people or themselves. Just know that these turn into karmic lessons, and that they're going to have to keep repeating in its opposite form in other lifetimes. So again, you're going to go back and forth and feel these out in opposite forms, because what you put out, you also need to learn and understand what it feels like to receive. Again, this is not good or bad. It is just balance. For instance, like maybe in one lifetime, let's just say we have a really powerful emperor or king or someone who runs things and made really bad choices because they wanted to keep their power. So they took from people in the poor and they hurt people, or they did some really horrible, hurtful things for people just to get what they want. In another lifetime, this was a hard thing for me to understand because, again, my background and I have this big heart in this. Maybe they chose to come into the next lifetime as a small victim, being completely powerless and receiving some of these things. So maybe they decided to come into a home where there would be abuse. That's a hard concept to think about. And I know when I first heard that, I cringed at that thought. But we have to think about it on a soul level too, because we always wonder, like, how could this happen? How do these bad things happen? But if we pull ourselves out for a minute and we think and look at things in a different perspective, on that soul perspective, we're learning and growing. And these are some of those harsh things that we're learning and growing from. And this is kind of what those karmic lessons are coming in. And that soul knew that this was a probability that they would go through, that this would happen. And again, that's part of that being that courageous soul, and to experience both sides of that. And when it comes to like loss and losing, we go through lifetimes where we've done that, where maybe we've lost a child in one lifetime, and then we come back in the next lifetime and things are in reverse, where people can feel and experience the yin and the yang to everything. It's part of the growth and soul growth. And that's the other key to it. And when we have these bad things and we're going through these big lessons and situations and what we call these bad and negative, these are fastest, biggest projectile ways of growth. When we're living this life and when we hold on to things let's say we have unresolved issues or things we've held on to that we didn't get to fix during life with people around us or within ourselves, just know that's the stuff you're carrying with you, with your soul, and that you're going to have to readdress in another lifetime. And I've had people right there going, oh, I have to do that again. Oh my gosh, I can't do this life again, or I can't deal with that emotion again or that situation. And that's not what I mean when I say you're going to have to do it again like that. You sit back down, you're taking a long break. Like everything is a choice. No one's forcing you to, like, when you die, you pass, you turn it into spirit, and you're like, boom, right back in. You're right back in the game and you don't get to process anything. Time is different on the other side. It's infinite. It doesn't exist. Like there's no limits. And you get to take your time and you get to decide on how you want to try the next lifetime and the situations and how you want to go. Some people choose some really big lessons in one lifetime where it's so overwhelming that they just can't handle it. They might leave us sooner. It's kind of, I also believe that we set up different parts within our timeline where there can be outs, but they're choices on the soul level of whether we're done or not. It's like our emergency exits if we have to, where things might happen to us. I mean, if you can look back into your life and think of situations, man, if I'd made that, how did I survive that? And I've got a lot of those myself. Oh my goodness. I'm sure all of us have those moments. But, we created some points of exit in case of emergency, and it's not bad. We just readdress it at another time. This probably got a lot deeper than I originally thought. But, I was just going with the flow of energy in this, and I find this amazing. And really, the last thing that I want to say in this topic, at least for this episode and in this moment in time, is that the truth is we will never really know or completely understand the universe. And even the things that I'm sharing now is just a piece. Even the most connected of intuitives or any other person on this planet, you're only going to know maybe a percent of what the universe actually holds, because in our human form, we are completely limited into what we can understand. And what I brought forward in the examples and how I said it is just the best way for me to explain the energy and the things that I've seen or felt and what has been shared by the beautiful light energy that guides me. And this is what I hold as my truth in this current time and how I see and believe things. You can all process and take it in for yourself. How are you feeling, Copper? Like, is this overwhelming? Like, where are we?
No, well, to be fair, we've had this conversation on several occasions.
Well, but
So,
this is all together at once, though. Like, that's a lot. Well, and you know what? To really finish this off, I'm going to finish this by truly answering in another form. The other layer of the question is, again, still, why are we here? What is that? Still that
mm,
bigger purpose of it all. And this, again, is what I know in that is that we are here to grow and evolve for our own selves and our own souls. But we are also here to help our fellow mankind, our fellow souls, to do the same. And this is why we're here to help inspire. And this is why we are not alone in all of this. We all have these struggles. We're all learning. We're all growing. And we are here to kind of help that. And we're here to help raise that consciousness here on this planet. And that's that vibration, bringing this place to love and that understanding. And if you look back in history, and this is how I like to explain it so you can completely understand it if you don't know what I'm talking about, is look back into history. Look back, let's talk medieval, even caveman. We were there in the basic senses of what we know and understand about the history of mankind. It is caveman days. Ooh, like, I want wife, bam, hit him on the head, take him, drag him to your place. That's basic survival, basic wants. And then you kind of keep going and evolving. And there is a lot of what we say is like, wow, savage. We were very savage. But again, we're putting these labels of what's good and bad, but we keep evolving. Do you see it through history? Is that we keep evolving, and we've been to places where then we become more what we call civilized. And now creating consequences for some of these actions. And then if you look, I swear, I really believe that in the last 100 years, 1 to 200 years, we've evolved the fastest, so much, because you have to think about,
mhm.
we've had slavery, treating people like they weren't people. You had women's rights. We're getting into gay rights. We're getting into non-binary. We're going into these phases of loving and understanding all and getting rid of these human created biases and categories and separation because we're not separated. Like I said, the soul doesn't have that. There's no gender, there's no race, there's nothing in that is different other than maybe the brightness of our light. There's no ego in that. So no one shines their light over somebody else saying, I got more light than you. Like it's not like that. It's I have this light. I want you to have this light with me. If you want my help, I'm here to help you. That's what that's about. And this is what we're doing here on this planet because this planet helps us evolve tremendously in just one lifetime compared to what our soul life. I really hope I didn't overwhelm anybody. And that was a whole lot of information. Like I said before, if I really started talking about a subject that is really hitting you, please email abouthealingpodcast@gmail.com. Let me know what it is. And then Katie and I will get together and start creating some more specific episodes where we can dive deeper in and answer more questions that maybe some of you have. You know, as you guys go into the next week or two, just take some time to really digest and take with you what feels right for you. Just know that you're always being supported. You're not making bad decisions or bad choices. They're just learning experiences. So don't judge it. Roll with it and create something new and go. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.
With much gratitude, thank you for tuning in. You can find us at Pandora, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, or any of your favorite places to find podcasts.
Remember to subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And to share any comments or if you have any questions, please email us at abouthealingpodcast@gmail.com. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another amazing episode. Until then, be kind to yourself.